Well, a judge has granted former President Trump's request for a special master to review documents seized from Mar-a-Lago. This ruling that the Department of Justice may not continue its investigation into the materials until they're reviewed by the appointed independent arbitrator.
Shortly after the former president's request was granted, he took to Truth Social to post a clip suspiciously close to sounding like a campaign announcement. Let's watch some of that.
We will not bend. We will not break. We will not yield. Ever, ever, ever. We will never give in, we will never give up, and we will never, ever back down. We will never let you down as long as we are confident and united. The tyrants we are fighting do not stand even a little chance. Because we are Americans, and Americans kneel to God and God alone. And it is time to start talking about greatness for our country again.
It's the Trump cadence. I just love it. I just love it. I can't get enough of it. So this is an interesting development. A lot of legal experts who I lean toward a Democratic direction, but also former Attorney General William Barr, all thought this was ridiculous. This was never going to work. No judge alive was ever going to go for this special master appointment. And they were wrong. The judge said yes. The judge said there should be a special master, and that so now the two sides get to confer on what that person, what kind of person that should be, and what sort of limitations will be on them. They're not going to agree on anything, so this might get further litigated. But look, I think I see the argument for. I don't think it's preposterous at all to have the special master because, look, we do have a reason, or at least I do. I have inherent skepticism of the FBI and how they would handle things like this, which is not to say that Donald Trump did nothing wrong. They might very well find that he did do something wrong and that anyone who did what he did would be and should be prosecuted. That might be what they find, but you can't ignore how the FBI has handled things relating to Donald Trump, how they've handled things relating to Hunter Biden, and not have some inherent skepticism that they would treat this matter fairly. So I see the argument for having a special master look at it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think so. First and foremost, there is some frustration about the way that this has been reported, principally by the New York Times. Folks were concerned that there was no discussion in the context of the article that the judge was appointed by Donald Trump, and that there is, in some people's view, a bias that has come out in her opinion. Legal experts haven't just, I think, broadly said she's wrong because we're Democrats. There also is a specific accounting of the ways in which she's miscited case law, et cetera.
But Trump-appointed judges have routinely throughout his election claims, right? It's not like, Trump judge, you can't trust anything they say.
It depends. But people are critical of the New York Times for not having made that explicit, and for readers to take from that what they will. But more centrally, the question is, what effect will this ultimately have? It might delay the use of these kind of materials in an investigation, but it certainly won't preclude them ultimately, is my understanding of it. And
and it doesn't prevent the intelligence officials can still go through the documents in order to determine whether there was some threat to national security because of it. So they're still doing that. It's just the facet of law enforcement that is trying to prosecute Donald Trump for something. They have to hold off and have this special master get involved. And that does not strike me as ridiculous or inappropriate.
Well, so the special master is reviewing for both legal privilege and executive privilege. So the idea that there are documents that are, exclusively should be seen and viewed and reviewed by the executive branch, and people are pushing back against that, saying, well, Donald Trump is no longer the executive, but the Justice Department that is conducting the investigation is within the executive branch. So that is the kind of the legal argument that's being made to why this is inappropriate in the first place. But I do wonder if ultimately the effect of this is rather immaterial in the broader context of the investigation of Donald Trump and the relevance of whether or not he improperly kept possession of confidential documents that he was not supposed to have. And it does feel a little bit like writing chapters to fill in a serialized story that has to stretch over a certain number of weeks or months.
He was still I could see the argument. He was still the chief executive when he decided to move those documents and he claimed that he has declassified.
Right, but it's the people now who want and have possession of the documents arguing that they somehow shouldn't have access to conduct their investigation because he has the executive, that's
a stalemate.
The tension.
It's God make a taco too hot for himself to eat. It's kind of like logic puzzle tautology. Well, MSNBC's Joy Ann Reid turned heads last week for suggesting a connection exists between the classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and the murder of several CIA assets in 2021. Let's watch.
We know that in 2021, that there was a rash of deaths of American spies. They were being caught. They were being killed. This is a very real and exigent circumstance. And the CIA has admitted to that. We are not saying that we know that there is some connection between the purloined documents and those events. But they did happen at a time when Trump did have custody of some really sensitive information that he shouldn't have had. You think about that. You think about Victor Vesselberg, who's being investigated for something else, for fraud. But he's a, Russian oligarch, sort of Trump and crony world. His house recently got raided. His yacht got seized. He's being investigated for something totally different. But Trump knows the kinds of people who one might want to investigate, who might want to do bad things to the United States and might not be on our side. And I wonder how frustrated you think law enforcement must be knowing that they can't look into any of that.
But they can look into that, so I don't know what she's talking about. The intelligence community is looking through the documents to determine exactly that. There's no evidence so far that what she said is the case. If it is the case, that it would be, yes, he should be prosecuted and go to prison. But there's no reason to, that's a pretty serious thing to put out there with no reason to think it's true.
It's a level of speculation that it didn't look like even her guests were buying in that clip. Judging by their facial expressions, look, of course, the whole point of why we're talking about this is that the information that Donald Trump had in a relatively unsecured location in his personal residence might have been so sensitive that it could have caused a national security threat. On the flip side of that, there is the critique that if that were in fact the case, that there should have been a lot more interest in securing those documents long before, 2 years of him being out of office, and what's going on with the FBI and our security state if they allow something like this to persist. So I understand why this kind of speculation is happening on MSNBC from liberals who need this kind of thing to generate ratings, but ultimately they have to be concerned about their long-term credibility.
Yeah, but let's blame Trump for the deaths, assumingly murders of assets of intelligence agencies now under the purview of Biden. That Trump is not in charge of these people. But it's still somehow Trump's fault because he has the documents. That's
they can just wait. Just give it a week or two, and you'll find out what's in the actual documents, and you can make your accusations.
My guess is that will not be the case.
My guess is that will not be the case as well.
But we'll just wait and find out. Unlike our friend Joy, other Joy, first name Joy. More Rising right after this.